but combined Olympic medal count of 160. And Nigeria has, what, 15? So, we're not even doing well in participation. Cameroon is less than 1/4 of our population, yet they have 5 Nations Cup medals. So football, that is the #1 sport, we're not even ranked. We have the same number. Ghana has more than us. Ghana has like 4. So in participation terms, we're not there. In business terms, we're not there. So it's time to flip the chart, and that's what this is all about. This is the 5th of a series of engagement sessions. The core goal is to bring everyone concerned with the business of sport, the industry, not the business, because when we say business, people say, oh, what about those running and jumping? The industry of sport, and say, we have had a policy since 2009 that was written by a group of people sitting in one room, and somehow for 10 years, we've not been able to function. We've not been able to fit into that policy. It's not delivered because there were not enough consultations. Now there's a draft 2018 policy. On close examination, it doesn't address the issues that we need to address to build an industry around a sector that close to 80% of the population is passionate about. How can't we translate passion to money? Which is what every other country that has carried sport to this level has been able to do. They've translated passion to money. They've monetized passion for sport. Why can't we, with 210 million people, why can't we get 60 million people to pay to, why can't we part 60 million people from 100 naira every day? What would it take? What we refer to, some of you who have been here before, we refer to it as our Indomie principle. How do we take the equivalent of 2 packets of Indomie from 60 million people every day to create a 2 trillion naira economy annually? It's 2 packets of Indomie. It sounds like nothing, but it's a lot multiplied by 60 million people. So we've engaged with the media people, media, entertainment, and tourism people. They came first. They came here first. And the insights were interesting, particularly from a digital era point of view, where technology has so disrupted sports. The way we consume sports now, globally, is totally different. So they came, and the findings, as I said, were interesting. Next came the education people. They were even more interesting in the sense that education contributes 50% to participation in sport. And we've got 42 million people in primary, secondary, and tertiary. So out of the 60 million people we need, we already got a captive market of 42 million. Is there a way to take this 100 naira from those 42 million? And so they came here, and we tried to find out from them what would it take for us to get this as a captive target audience. Next came the money people, the financial institutions. And, they lived up to their own billing. One of them is here. The whole skepticism in the world was brought to bear on our sessions. You people, you can't do anything. But by the time we left here, they said, interesting things. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, we had the trade groups and professional groups. So the lawyers, the doctors, the chambers of commerce, they were all here. And they shared their perspectives from 4 pillars, which we are calling 4 pillars of reform to deliver on an industry. Incentives, investment, infrastructure, backed by a viral policy. The 3 I's and 1 P. It becomes very easy to see how this is possible. And so today we have another group of people, the donor agencies, who we find spend quite a bit of money and spend a bit of time in building capacity, in investing in areas that can deliver impact. The multilateral organizations who also do the same, because for them it's about, the United Nations says we must all be at this level by 2030. This 2030 is almost here. I know when they started it 5 years ago, it seemed like 2030 was some far off point. We've got 10 years to go. And so they have these SDGs, and the multilaterals were hooked in by the UN to say we all must achieve this. Sports has been identified, like we said, to have impact in 7 of those. And then we have the multinationals, who over the years have been sponsoring sport. And suddenly there seems to be a pullback. Why are they pulling back from sponsorship? Why are they pulling back from partnerships? Why are they not more involved in the business? So we have all of them here who will talk to us about, who will share insights about their involvement in incentives, investment, infrastructure, which has been identified as the main trigger to get us started, and what it would take to put all of this into a vibrant policy to deliver on the goal of an annual 2 trillion sports industry, 10 million jobs by 2030, social and community impact development, and a better life for the citizenry in this country. So I'm going to call on Mr. Femi Abioye to provide an agenda-setting framework, after which, for those who are not familiar with how we operate here, I will now let you know, this is not a talking art session. We want your inputs. So we'll have 2 breakout sessions. It was 4 normally, but we have decided to have 2 today to make it really more impactful. And then we will tell you which 2 and what the subject matter will be. Thank you very much. Mr. Abioye.
Let me use the opportunity to appreciate everybody for showing up at this engagement session. And pretty easy. My work is not so much other than to set the tone for the discussion. Particularly, I have a thematic lead chair who has done the work for me. If I leave her to take this session, I won't have much to say. So under that, I'll just go straight to some of the things that we would like to hear from you, particularly because of your involvement in this industry. Either as a donor agency or working with a multinational or any of the multilateral agencies, at least I know that NESG is in the room. You understand? So basically, she has said so much about the background. I mean, putting it in context. We're talking about youth here, and we're talking about sports. But one thing that is very, very missing in the whole link for us to be at par with what other clients are doing is the fact that we don't have a framework. We don't have a strategy. Before now, most of the things that have been done has been concerns of one or two people. But we know that for us to move to the next level, we need to have a rollout plan. We need to have a policy that dictates the rule of engagement such that we will be able to hold ourselves accountable at every point in time and then have it backed by legislation. We know about the socio-economic indicators in Nigeria. Of more importance is the fact that the youth people we're talking about are 65% of this environment, and they have the right to be gainfully employed. They have the right to be engaged. They have the right to participate in sports, as said by the United Nations. So these are the reasons why we are here. And what we talked about the opportunities. My chairman talked about the fact that we have so much people in school. At that particular part of their life, that is when a lot of formations are done. That is when they can contribute to the economy. And that's a number that we are not really taking care of at the moment. We know that sports have more than just participation, like she said. It can help improve health. It can, by improving health, it helps us with life expectancy. It's also been used because of the physical attributes to help reduce obesity. And because of, if you look at this generation, I think they call it Generation Z, they are more active on the internet. Most of them don't have opportunity to exercise. That's where they do their exercise. And I even think sometimes now they start putting exercise on different modules so that they can be attractive to them. So one of the things that is very prevalent in them is that obesity is on the rise. And it has its own social implications too. So these are things that sports can help to take care of. We talked about over 250 million school-age children and adolescents, which will be classed as obese in 2020. That's a cause for worry. And we're still talking about what sports can do. These are the areas of trigger that make sports what it is. I will show you the ecosystem of sport. In the ecosystem of sport, we have what we call live, work, and play, which is where you have a residential area built purposely in a sporting environment where you can go from your work to where you play. I mean, participate in some sporting activity. We know one of the things that is very popular is people buy replica jersey or buy merchandising product of favorite teams that they follow. We know that the talent management is a very key component of the ecosystem. People that discover the likes of Usain Bolt, people who want to manage the like of Adekoroye, one of the best wrestlers in this climb. We know about sponsorship, and we know that one of the easiest ways to monetize this whole ecosystem is through ticketing. And then when you come into a sporting arena, there's hospitality and the like. But despite all these things, the major challenges are evident. We've talked about the fact that there's no plan. And there's no equally enough data to support whatever advocacy that we would like to do. And because of that, it is very difficult to convince anybody to part with money. These are challenges that we believe that with a clear-cut agenda and policy, we will be able to take sport to the next level. Most of the people seated in this room knows what policy is all about. And one of the key reasons why we're doing this, I take us back a little bit. We had an engagement about 3 years ago. And in that engagement, I mean, that's what really set us thinking. One of the major outcomes of that engagement during the next 23 was that we don't have policy. And without policy, like we have discovered that in most other climes, policy is what set the agenda. And that is the reason why we're having this engagement, such that we can take feedback and input into a roadmap that will help us set national development goals related to healthy living. I talked about the fact that sports help in healthy living, help in economic growth so that our youth are gainfully employed, and then promote equity and excellence, which will take us to rank among the best sporting nation in the world. And we know also that in terms of policy, one of the things that is very important is the economic contribution, which is why probably a lot of government before now have not taken sport serious. A lot of them see sport as just being participatory. They don't believe that sport has economic implication. And this is the consciousness that we're trying to bring into these new reforms that we're working on. And in terms of economic development, we're also looking at contributions and support that we can use sports to do. We talked about one of the major things that is driving this new economic reform that the country is presently pursuing has to do with the investment in public services, has to do with privatization and deregulation, effective tax collection. Nigeria has been known to be one of the least in terms of bringing income into through taxation. And this government believes that if they increase taxation, more funds will be available, and then maybe sports will get more from that part. And then we talked about development of manufacturing. These are the different dynamics of the economic development that we want to put in our sports policy. And there's other issues, and it has always been discussed that when we talked about foreign aid, which is a big subset of what both multinational companies brings into this space, how does it help? And in looking at the possibilities with the funds that comes in, how do we deploy them in the right sphere so that we can, sport especially can benefit from it? So having said that, she mentioned that we're not in lack of a policy. There's one done about 8 years ago, and now they're about to do another one. And there can be a better time for us to change the narratives. These are the gaps that we have noticed with the present situation. And one very important part of it is, even when you have a roadmap, who is doing monitoring? If Nigeria says we're going to participate in 10 sports, or we're going to have 10 players, just to use the word, who will tell the government or the institution directly involved that you have not done the right thing? This is the main challenge we have. The last policy was, after the years that it was set up, nothing happened things happen and nobody can interrogate it. So in this new dispensation, we want to have a policy that can be interrogated, and then we can come and ask questions such that we can monitor the different framework that has been set up. Then brings me to the reason why we're gathered in here. This is the fifth of the different engagement sessions that we have. We have looked at the different industries, because sports as a sector has multi-sectoral implication. In sports, you have manufacturing. In sports, you have real estate. In sports, you have the different industries. And most of the challenges that we have had before now is that those people in sports just sit on themselves. There is no that cross-sectoral relationship which is one of the things that the international best practices preaches. And that is why we have gathered you here this morning, because we know that you are custodian of most foreign direct investment. And this foreign direct investment help to enable environment. You are the custodian of the funds that can help us elicit contributions that can help us determine the right input into our national policies in terms of what are the things and how does money flows. Secondly, we believe the reason why we're here is we have governance issues in our institutions. Maybe that can help us set aside the best practices or change the way we have been doing things so that more funds that flows into this part of the world can be used successfully in our sports in endeavor. And then we can then probably build a best practice funding and investment model that will support the industry so that the talked about industrialization can be triggered. In our understanding of what you do, we know that FDIs and multinationals goes hand in hand. We know that you also bring more than finances. We know that you bring technologies. We know that you bring capacity, which is needed in this industry. Like I said earlier in my presentation, because of the cross-sectoral part of this industry, there are a lot of gaps in the market. For example, we don't have as much as sport lawyers. We're still looking for auditors. Sport medicine is one area that is very important in this industry. Technology, I mean, we can't say much other than the fact that everything we do presently is affected by technology. She talked about the broadcasting opportunities that has to do with technology and how technology is changing the whole facet of sport generally. And these are some of the possibilities that are with a lot of multinationals, including donor agencies. So we want to tap into this. And then that also leads to the fact that we want to interrogate if Nigerian sports is actually ripe for some of this foreign direct investment, such that we can not only attract them, we can then keep them to continually grow the industry. One of the highlights of things that money flows is the fact that policies and action by government like Nigeria play a key role in ensuring that FDI creates better paying jobs and increase competitiveness of the host economy, which is one of the things we're trying to bring into the sports industry. And if we look at the FDI report, we can, I don't know if this is very visible from here, but we can see that Nigeria is one of the biggest destinations in Africa for FDIs. But those FDIs, we're yet to see their impact in sports. So one of the reasons why we're having this conversation this morning is for you to tell us things that we need to put in our policies that will help some of those inflows come into sport and directly impact on the industry. We know that currently, some of the FDI that comes into this part of the world, Nigeria especially, goes into some of those sectors that we believe have cross issues with sports. And how can we then make them more impactful? I mean, money comes into ICT, and we're talking about sport and technology. How do we get more inflow into that space such that, I mean, we have a lot of betting games going on here and there, how do we make it count? We talked about infrastructure. We know a lot of money flows into construction, retail. How do we help those money into developing stadiums that are viable? How do we build hospitality concern from this money? These are the reasons why we brought you into this room this morning. We also know about there's a great inflow of diaspora money. What I mean by diaspora money, a lot of Nigerians living abroad are sending a lot of remittances here. It has become a big issue in the financial sector. We want to interrogate and see how some of this money can be used to develop our sport industry. I'm sure you have some of this understanding, and it will help us if you can bring those information into our soon to be developed policies, so that diaspora money can also find their way into sports developed in Nigeria. And we know that by United Nations projection, as per the development goals, a lot of the multinationals and donor agencies have found this as a very, very convenient space to invest in. And in investing this, they are investing in sport. And if we have more of this investment coming in, it will help us develop the industry, not only as participation, but also to improve some of the identified sustainable development goals, which we believe that if they are well done, I mean, we talked about promoting healthy lifestyle, which is, as will also help us in terms of reducing obesity and what have you. We talked of inclusive and equitable. We know in the northern part of Nigeria, there's a lot of issues that development goals can do with helping us curb bringing peace and respondents in the northern east of Nigeria. These are some of the things that, and promoting inclusiveness. These are some of the attributes and building jobs for our teaming youth. These are things that some of the multinational agencies are already doing in other space, and we want them to do more here. And if they want to do more here, what are the things that will encourage them to do more in this space? So the engagement that we're having this morning will provide us opportunity to make input into the draft national sports policy as regards these different areas that I've identified earlier. It also helps us to discuss issues around incentives that will help us attract, magnetize some of these funds that we talked about. And then we'll be able to put proper structure such that we can then monitor. Coming into this engagement, we've shared some documents with you earlier as regards the draft sections. These are the areas that we want to, in the draft policy, these are the areas that we want to add more flesh to, so that it becomes very robust, and we will be leaning on your inputs in this regard. At the end of this engagement today, we're expecting that some of the input that we will get from you will help us project an estimated number of jobs. We're looking at creating about 6 to 10 million jobs in the next 4 or 5 years when this policy is passed. We're looking at making educational institutions the bedrock for sport development in Nigeria. And we also believe that our engagement will help us to really fine-tune those cross-sectional sectoral cooperation that will help us take sports in Nigeria to the next level. And then we'll be able, after this engagement, we'll have also gained your support and your buy-in into repositioning sport industry as a consumer and demand-driven retail sector of the economy. We will have good and robust input into the national sport policy, which will highlight investment potential. And lastly, we will have encouraged investment that is all over the world to find a place in our sport industry. In the end, we'll have a clear position on the role of your sector, and then we'll define incentive for private social-led participation in professionalizing sport in Nigeria. And then essentially, we will have concretized a funding and investment model that will drive the different actors in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Femi. So that's the agenda. It's fairly simple, even if I say so myself. But essentially, because this group is dominated by multilateral donor agencies, there's likely to be a concentration on actually how do we use sports to meet the SDGs, the investment in sport to meet the SDGs. So we're looking at impact, how we create impact in communities using sports, how probably investment in infrastructure can deliver the kind of facilities that will encourage more people to play sport. And if you're playing sport, you can tackle issues like gender, SDG 5, which relates to gender, equity, equality. How do we get more girls to stay in school for longer so that they can achieve their potential? And if they're staying in school for longer, how do we use sport to enable that happen? We want healthy living. How do we use sport as a platform for healthy living and achieve, I think it's SDG 3 that does that. So obesity, we've identified obesity. How do we relate with multilateral organizations that are really focused on social and community development and impact, as opposed to commercial multinationals who some of the time use sports to achieve business and brand benefits. You see, everybody has what they are looking to use sport for. The critical thing for us is how do we marry all these objectives into a policy that's vibrant, that enables us truly to create jobs. As I said, target is 10 million jobs in 10 years, 5 of them direct, 5 of them indirect. And then how do we also achieve social and community goals such as gender equality, jobs for youth, youth development, healthy lifestyles. In a nutshell, how do we encourage sports as a lifestyle such that it enables the achievement of both our goals and your goals? So your inputs are critical, and therefore, we are going to now get those inputs in 2 breakout sessions. Never mind what you see here is actually we're merging. It was supposed to be 4, but we're merging them into 2 because we find that they are closely related. So 2 groups of people. You know I can't do this. I can't do this without you. I don't know why you're at the back of the room. You see? I got it wrong. Aha. So we're going to merge 1 and 2. No, actually, we're merging 2 and 3, investments and infrastructure. Going by previous engagements we had, particularly at the interministerial technical session last November, it was determined that infrastructure is the main trigger. And when we're talking infrastructure, facilities, Yes, every ancillary sector requires infrastructure, but the facilities for playing sport was identified as the main one. You can't play sport without facilities. If you ask 40 million children to start playing sport 1 day a week, you need the facilities for them to go to. So we're merging, and you need the money to build those facilities. So we're merging investments and infrastructure, then 1 and 4, incentives and policy. So we expect that the two groups, from the perspective of donor agencies, from multilaterals and multinationals, will give us what they expect to find in this policy that will make them bring this money that Femi thinks they have eaten at the back of their house. And it's just that we have not done enough to make them part with it. So I'm going to call on 2 people here to help us lead those 2 sessions. I may not know your name, but I'm going to actually ask the 2 people that ought to have been here all this while, but they're not here. They've been following online. The chairman of the Eminent Focal Group, Mr. Yaya Maikori, has been a part of this process for a while. The Eminent Focal Group is a body set up by the NESG to ensure we gather all stakeholders into the room. And since April last year, they have been ensuring that we talk to you. So I'll ask Mr. Maikori to lead the session on investments and infrastructure, while I'll ask Dr. Iken Nawosu to assist us to lead the sessions on incentives and policy. The discussions go this way. The session lead will guide the discussions. We have a template. So we guide the discussions along the stated objectives and session topic. Our discussions are not more than about 40 minutes. And we have a rapporteur who will take notes according to the report template and prepare the report for review by the session participants. That's about 10 minutes. The session will review the final output, and we'll come back here, and each session lead will present to us what his group said should happen. So what the 2 sessions, once again, incentives and policy, will remain here, while investment and infrastructure will use the boardroom upstairs. There are 2 documents that are important to this process, and you have both of them. The first one is the policy, the current provisions for your group in the current policy. And the second one is what we've called the Antananarivo Report. I'll give you a brief background as to that. In 2013, the African Union came up with the 2063 Africa We Want agenda, a 50-year agenda for pushing for youth empowerment and development such that Africa takes the next leap forward and joins with the rest of the world. Very good agenda. The problem was sport had just 2 paragraphs. Now, if you're talking about youth and you leave out a youth-denominated sector like sport, that the youth that you're talking about are involved in, then you've missed it. So 2 years ago, the AU realized the problem, and they held a meeting in Madagascar, which is why this is the Antananarivo Report, and came out with what they thought sports could achieve, help them achieve in the AU 2063 agenda. It's a pretty comprehensive document, and I think when I say the summary is pretty comprehensive and addresses some of the stuff we've been talking about, so it'll be very useful to gather our thoughts together. So on that note, I'm going to call out the rapporteurs. Emmanuel you've been handling policy for a while. So who was handling incentives? So Zeno and Emmanuel will be here. And Kewe and Femi will go up with the infrastructure and investment people. Because you have a fairly good idea what we've done the past 4 sessions, you'll be able to quickly set everybody on the straight and narrow. So, Mr. Maikori, please, we want to know you so that those who want to follow you will follow you. This is Mr. Maikori, lawyer, entrepreneur. What do they call those things? What do they call that? Or chooser, pathfinder. I had to say it in Igbo first. Then I got the word. And then Dr. Ikenna Nwosu, please, you are remaining here. I want everybody to see you. Dr. Ikenna is going to make me stand and face. He's going to make me stand and face the wall when you've all gone away because I called him out. Okay, so those for policy and incentives, please, you remain here and stay with Dr. Ikenna. And those for infrastructure and investment, please, you follow Mr. Maikori upstairs. And we will come back here in 1 hour. I'll go around cracking the whip and ensuring that we stay on the straight and narrow. Once again, thank you very, very much. So, Mr. Maikori, go with your people.